Great Nevaeh, Mosque, Hagia Sophia, Church, Harbour of Julian. A small port on the southern edge of Constantinople's peninsula that opens into the Sea of Marmara. Though small, the harbour of Julian would have been a perfect port to receive Byzantine royalty in Constantinople's earliest days, due to its close proximity to the Hippodrome and the now defunct Byzantine Great Palace, which once stood immediately to the harbour's east. In Ottoman times, after the opening of the Grand Bazaar near the northern edge of the peninsula, merchants found it easier to bring their goods to the city via the northern ports, and this, combined with the Sultan's move to the Topkapi Palace on the first hill, made the harbour of Julian a less attractive port. Alright, let's see if there's a thing on that. Harbour of Julian. Harbour of Julian. Harbour of... Nope. Nope, there's no article. There's no article on that. And according to the game, it's that one. Or maybe it's that one. Hold on, which one is it? It's probably that one. If it's close to the palace, it has to be that one, doesn't it? Not that it really matters, because in game they all look the same. Actually, let's go to Istanbul. And let's see if there's something here. So there's harbours and harbours. No, there's not really anything left. There's nothing left of it in modern day Istanbul, I don't think. Should we go down there, or is there not much point? They all look pretty much the same anyway. Let's not bother, it's not really gonna be historically accurate. Oops, I shouldn't close that. We really wanna... I mean, it's really only worthwhile to look at it in game if it actually tells us something about real world architecture, right? And this does not, really. Harbour of Julian, Hippodrome we've looked at, Topkapi Palace we've looked at, Hagia Sophia, Cistern, Prosphorion and Neorion harbours, two small ports on the northern edge of Constantinople's peninsula, nestled in the Golden Horn estuary. In the Byzantine era, both ports would have benefited from the protection offered by the Great Chain strung across the mouth of the Golden Horn. So let's see if that's in the game. Prosphorion Harbour. Nope. No, oh there we go. Oh, that's Wikipedia. I mean, it's Assassin's Creed wiki. So again, no. No, so there's no Wikipedia article on it. But it would have been up here. It would have been here. Again, not that much point us looking at it because we've seen it in the game. And it's not all that remarkable anyway. We would look at the Great Chain though, across the Golden Horn. Let me just check these. The Golden Horn, which is the Golden Horn or Halich, meaning waterway, is an estuary flowing into the Bosphorus Strait that bisects Constantinople into its northern and southern halves. Because of its breadth and depth, the Golden Horn has served as a natural harbour since the days of ancient Byzantium. In 1502, after the cessation of violence between Ottomans and Venetians, Sultan Bayezid II invited the famous Florentine Leonardo da Vinci to submit a design for a bridge that would span the 250-meter wide section of the Golden Horn. Upon seeing Leonardo's design, however, the Sultan felt the project was too ambitious and scrapped the idea. 4 years later, Bayezid extended the same invitation to a young artist named Michelangelo. But Michelangelo, being an avowed rival of Da Vinci, refused the Sultan's invitation outright, evidently incensed that Leonardo had been asked first. Well, you know, Leonardo's the engineer, right? Michelangelo's not as much. So, do we have Golden Horn? Golden Horn. Okay, here we go. There is a Wikipedia article on the waterway. Ah, bridge. Part of the Golden Horn north of the city's main peninsula. Alright. Leonardo's Bridge. Cool. That's massive. Alright, let's read about it. The Golden Horn is a major urban waterway and the primary inlet of the Bosphorus in Istanbul, Turkey. It is a horn-shaped estuary, hence the name, that joins the Bosphorus Strait at the immediate point where the said strait meets the Sea of Marmara, thus forming a narrow, isolated peninsula, the tip of which is Old Istanbul, and the promontory of Sarayburnu or Seraglio Point. The Golden Horn geographically separates the historic center of Istanbul from the rest of the city, and forms a natural sheltered harbor that has historically protected Greek, Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman, and other maritime trade ships for thousands of years. While the reference to a horn is understood to refer to the inlet's general shape, the significance of the designation golden is more obscure, with historians believing it to refer to either the riches brought into the city through the bustling historic harbor located at the Golden Horn, or to romantic historic interpretations of the rich yellow light blazing up on the estuary's water as the sun sets over the city. Its Greek and English names mean the same, while the Turkic name simply means estuary, and is derived from the Arabic word Khalij, meaning gulf. Throughout its storied past, the Golden Horn has witnessed many tumultuous historic incidents, and its dramatic visitors have been the subject of countless works of art. It's not that amazing in the game, though. It's kind of just pretty normal. Description: the Golden Horn, I don't know if we need to read that again. It's spanned by 4 bridges today, so on and so forth. Not that interesting for us. So it forms a deep natural harbor for the peninsula. It encloses together with the Sea of Marmara. The Byzantine Empire had its naval headquarters there, and walls were built along the shoreline to protect the city of Constantinople from naval attacks. At the entrance to the horn on the northern side, a large chain was pulled across from Constantinople to the old Tower of Galata to prevent unwanted ships from entering. Known among the Byzantines as the Great Tower, this tower was largely destroyed by the Latin Crusaders during the Fourth Crusade. Yes, Venetians again! In 1348, the Genoese built a new tower nearby, which they called the Tower of Christ, now called Galata Tower. There were 3 notable times when the chain across the horn was either broken or circumvented. In the 10th century, the Kievan Rus dragged their longships out of the Bosphorus, around Galata, and relaunched them in the horn. The Byzantines defeated them with Greek fire. They pulled their boats out of the water, across the ground, and then put them back in the water inside the chain. Amazing. In 1204, during the Fourth Crusade, Venetian ships were able to break the chain with a ram. Oh, good job, Venetians. In 1453, Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II, having failed in his attempt to break the chain with brute force, instead used the same tactic as the Rus, towing his ships across Galata over greased logs into the estuary. So again, you're pulling ships over land around the chain. So this chain was pretty serious. The only people who have ever broken it was the Venetians. After the conquest of Constantinople in 1453, Mehmed II resettled ethnic Greeks along the Horn in the Fana. Balad continued to be inhabited by Jews as during the Byzantine Age, though many Jews decided to leave following the takeover of the city. This area was repopulated when Bayezid II invited the Jews who were expelled from Spain to resettle in Balad. Today the Golden Horn is settled on both sides and there are parks along each shore. Alright, so that's not too useful. Leonardo's Bridge. In 1502, Leonardo da Vinci produced a drawing of a single-span 240-meter bridge over the Golden Horn as part of a civil engineering project for Sultan Bayezid II. Leonardo's drawings and notes regarding this bridge are currently displayed at the Museo della Scienza e della Tecnologia in Milan, Italy. The vision of Leonardo's Golden Horn Bridge was resurrected in 2001 when a small footbridge based on Leonardo's design was constructed near As in Norway. Okay. So apparently it would have looked like this. And the whole thing's 200 something meters long. I don't know if that would have been possible at the time. But you know, Leonardo, he's pretty ambitious. I think we should go look at the Great Chain as well. Not the Great Chain of Industry, but wait a minute. What if we go? Is there gonna be like a chain? Great Chain Istanbul? Let me just try that. Chain Istanbul. No. There's no article on the chain itself. Huh, interesting. So there's a chain, but there's no detailed article. Let's go back to the game. The Great Chain, built sometime around 1000 CE, the Great Chain was an ingenious, if slightly mad, defensive measure. What do you mean mad? It worked. It only failed like once. When the Venetians broke it, it only failed once. It has worked every other time. Anchored to two large towers and strung across the mouth of the Golden Horn, the chain's primary purpose was to prevent enemy ships from sailing up the waterway and attacking the sensitive and poorly defended ports of Constantinople's interior. As low-tech as this sounds, the chain performed admirably on more than a few occasions for more than 400 years, and in 1453 it so vexed Sultan Mehmed II that he was forced to improvise an ever stranger plan to circumvent the Byzantine defenses. He pulled his warships over the hills of Galata and slid them on greased tracks into the Golden Horn, far upriver from the chain. It just goes to show that crazy is often the only way to be crazy. But it's not crazy! It's not crazy, it's a perfectly workable idea. Let's go up there and see the chain in the game. There doesn't seem to be too much detail of it in history though. And I believe after that, the only thing we have left to look at is the Great Bazaar, which I guess we'll do right now since we're here and we're doing the architecture already. Alright, what's going on down here? Nah, don't kill yourself. Alright, good. I don't know how many people can jump off like a 2-story building and not break their legs. Like that. Oops, sorry. This is randomly kick people in the back. Okay, so here's the harbor, and the chain would be in this direction. Run, run, run. Yeah, so they had a massive chain that stretched across the mouth of the harbor. It's a pretty good idea, I think. I mean, it works, for sure. Although the Venetians did manage to break it. I'm kinda interested in reading up more about the Fourth Crusade. I won't do it on video, because I mean, it's going to be long. And not that interesting, just a lot of reading. So I'll do it in my own time, but maybe you should too if you're interested. Because what exactly did the Venetians do in the Fourth Crusade? Because they messed this place up. And they were the only people to break the chain, huh? Yeah, that's an accomplishment, isn't it? I guess. Oh, it's broken. Oh crap. Okay, well, it's... Remember how we broke it in the game? In the story? Well, it's still broken here. That's... Oops. So it was here. Let me just go to the other side. It might still be intact on the other side. Oh no, the chain's gone. Oh, damn it. Well, if you want to see it in the game, you have to go back to a previous memory because we smashed it during the game. And you know that's not historically accurate, because if something like that happened, that would have been in the history books. Because it was only circumvented 3 times in history. Once with rams and 2 with pulling boats over the Galata. So this is what's left of the chain there. So I guess normally it'd be lowered into the water, and then when they need to defend the city, they would pull the chain up so that it's too shallow for the boats to get across. And then when the boats do try to get across, they'll just kind of cut themselves open on the chain. In the game, you see that the chain has like spikes on it. Let me just get up there. So in the game, well, this chain has these like spikes on it. I don't know if that's accurate, but yeah. So if you try to sail across it, then you just kind of smash your boat open on those spikes. Let me just go back here. Golden Horn. Because there was a link here, a large chain, a boom, navigation barrier. A boom or a chain is an obstacle strung across a navigable stretch of water to control or block navigation. Oh, there you go. Booms could be military in nature with the goal of denying access to an enemy's ships. A modern example is the anti-submarine net. Booms could also be used, especially along rivers, to force passing vessels to pay a toll. A boom generally floats on the surface, while a chain can be on the surface or below the water. A chain could be made to float with rafts, logs, ships, or other wood, making the chain a boom as well. Especially in medieval times, the end of a chain could be attached to a chain tower or boom tower. This allowed safe raising or lowering of the chain, as they were often heavily fortified. By raising or lowering a chain or boom, access could be selectively granted rather than simply rendering the stretch of water completely inaccessible. The raising and lowering could be accomplished by a windlass mechanism or a capstan. Oh, that's interesting. There's a chain there. Remains of the great chain that protected the Golden Horn. Amazing. There is a... It's there. Look at that. Although it can't be that... Wait a minute, that's not that big. Okay, the chain links are not actually very big. Look at that. There's no spikes on them. But if it's all metal, and it's stretched like several hundred meters, then obviously it's going to be quite heavy. But the chain itself wasn't that big. Oh, interesting. So I guess ramming through it wasn't that impressive. But there you go, there's the chain there. Booms or chains could be broken by a sufficiently large or heavy ships, and this occurred on many occasions, including the siege of Damietta, the raid on the Midway, and the Battle of Vigo Bay. Frequently, however, attackers instead seized the defenses and cut the chain or boom by more conventional methods. The boom in the siege of Londonderry, for example, was cut by sailors in a longboat. As a key portion of defenses, booms were usually heavily fortified. This involved shore-based chain towers, batteries, or forts. In the age of sail, a boom protecting a harbor could have several ships defending it with their broadsides, discouraging assaults on the boom. On some occasions, multiple booms spanned a single stretch of water. Cool. So there's the great chain of the Golden Horn. And alright, the last thing we can look at is the Grand Bazaar. Although let me go Cappadocia. Okay, that's just the cave. Messiah is also just one article. We're not gonna look at those. My bad. Constantinople, Grand Bazaar. Where is it? It's there. The Grand Bazaar, one of the earliest and most important projects undertaken by Sultan Mehmed following his conquest of Constantinople, or Mehmed, was the construction of the Grand or Covered Bazaar, an enormous enclosed hub of commerce and trade. The Grand Bazaar's close proximity to the Golden Horn waterway to the north gave merchants easy access to and from ships arriving from all over the world, and its centralized location on the peninsula ensured that all citizens had reasonable access to its bustling corridors. Located at the heart of the complex is the Old Bedestan, a fortified enclosure built by Mehmed II, originally used by merchants to store precious goods and expensive wares overnight. Today, the bazaar contains more than 3,000 shops and employs upwards of 20,000 people. So it's still a massive shopping center. 3,000 shops and 20,000 people. That's massive. Alright, well, let's go to Wikipedia. If I just type in Great Bazaar or Grand Bazaar. Oh, there's multiple. Let's go to the one in Istanbul. Look at all these things you can buy. Look at all these fancy dresses and suitcases and chest sets and babies. You can buy babies and rugs and food, and you can buy all sorts of things, and jewelry. Look at all these people. The Grand Bazaar in Istanbul is one of the largest and oldest covered markets in the world, with 61 covered streets and over 3,000 shops. 61 covered streets, which attracts between 250,000 and 400,000 visitors daily. 400,000 visitors every single day. This thing's massive. Let's go over there. The one in game doesn't do the real thing any justice whatsoever. Holy cow. 400,000 people a day. That's like 500,000 people every single day. Insane! Where's this boat? Let's find a boat and get over there. And the one in the game is mostly rugs. Mostly rugs and fruit. There's not that many things for you to buy in the game. Yep. Imperial District. Alright, so the Grand Bazaar should be difficult to miss. Just have to walk south and you'll see it. Just kick those guys in the back. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? 61 covered streets. That's a lot of covered streets. And you know, even back then they realized that if you want people to shop, you need to give them a shopping mall. A controlled climate where people can shop in comfort. So there you go. So here it is in the game. We have flowers, we have rugs. Oh, plates. Look at those plates. That's amazing plates. Look at those. Books. More rugs, more books. Fish. Ew. Meats. There's a beans. What are those? Clothing. And colorful beans of some sort. And more rugs, more fish, and more flowers, and what is this? Lamps? This guy sells lamps and rugs, and more food, and more rugs, and more rugs. Alright, let's go back to Wikipedia. History. The construction of the future Grand Bazaar's core started during the winter of 1455 to 56, shortly after the Ottoman conquest of Constantinople. Sultan Mehmed II had an edifice erected devoted to the trading of textiles. It was named the Bedestan of Gems, also known as the New Bedestan in Ottoman Turkish. The word Bedestan is adapted from the Persian word Bezestan, derived from bez, cloth, which means bazaar of the cloth sellers. So originally it was cloth. The building, named alternately in Turkish, I'm not gonna bother trying to pronounce those. Internal, ancient, or old Bedestan lies on the slope of the third hill of Istanbul, between the ancient fora of Constantinople and of Theodosius. It was also near the first Sultan's palace. the old palace, which was also in construction in those same years and not far from the Artopoleia, the city's baker's quarter in Byzantine times. The construction of the Belistain ended in the winter of 1460 and 61, and the building was endowed to the Waqf of Hagia Sophia Mosque. Oh, okay. So the taxes from the whole Grand Bazaar went to the Hagia Sophia. Analysis of the brickwork shows that most of the structure originates from the second half of the 15th century, although a Byzantine relief representing a Komnenian eagle still enclosed on the top of the east gate of the Belistain has been used by several scholars as proof that the edifice was a Byzantine structure. I don't know if you can do that. I mean, people loot parts of other buildings regularly. It could just be they looted the eagle and just put it there. It doesn't really mean that the Byzantines built the thing. In a market near the Belistain named in Turkish Izia Bazari, the slave trade was active. Okay, so slaves were also sold here. Use also carried over from Byzantine times. Other important markets in the vicinity were the second-hand market, the long market corresponding to the Greek Makros Imbolos, a long porticod mall stretching downhill from the Forum of Constantine to the Golden Horn, which was one of the main market areas of the city, while the old book market was moved from the bazaar to the present picturesque location near the Bayezid Mosque only after the 1894 Istanbul earthquake. So the market had like sections. There's like slaves here, and then textiles, and then books, and then other things. Some years later, according to other sources, this occurred in 1545 under Sultan Suleiman I. Okay, so disputed. Some years later, Mehmed II had another covered market built, the Sandal Belistain. The name comes from a kind of thread woven in Bursa, which had the color of sandalwood. So not actual sandals, but more cloth. Either Little or New Belistain, which lay north of the first. After the erection of the Sandal Belistain, the trade in textiles moved there, while the Cefahir Belistain was reserved for the trade in luxury goods. At the beginning, the two buildings were isolated. According to the 16th century French traveller Pierre Gilly, between them and the Mosque of Bayezid stood the ruins of churches and a large cistern. However, soon many sellers opened their shops between and around them, so that a whole quarter was born, devoted exclusively to commerce. Oh, look. At the beginning of the 17th century, the Grand Bazaar had already achieved its final shape. So it took several hundred years for this thing to actually grow to the Grand Bazaar. The enormous extent of the Ottoman Empire in 3 continents and the total control of road communications between Asia and Europe rendered the bazaar and the surrounding khans or caravanserais the hub of the Mediterranean trade. According to several European travelers at that time and until the first half of the 19th century, the market was unrivaled in Europe with regards to the abundance, variety, and quality of goods on sale. So, as I've kind of said earlier, the Ottoman Empire controlled all the land traffic from between Asia and Europe because of its location. And so the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul became like the center of trade, of this massive kind of trade network. And everybody came here to buy and sell things. At that time, we know from European travelers that the Grand Bazaar had a square plan with 2 perpendicular main roads crossing in the middle, and a third road running along the outer perimeter. In the bazaar there were 67 roads, each bearing the name of sellers of a particular good, several squares used for daily prayers, 5 mosques, 7 mountains, 18 gates which were opened each day in the morning and closed in the evening. Around 1638, the Turkish traveller Evliya Çelebi gave us the most important historical description of the bazaar and of its customs. The number of shops amounted to 3,000, plus 300 located in the surrounding khans. A large caravanserais with 2 or 3 stories around a portico in the courtyard. These caravanserais is basically where the caravans would stop. So these kind of camels and horses and carts. So these traders would bring their goods via caravans to these places and stop, and so they'd unload the goods and sell them here, and then buy other goods and take them back. So the market and the caravans kind of were linked. One served the other, or they served each other. With 2 or 3 stories around a porticoed inner courtyard where goods could be stored and merchants could be lodged. In that period, 1/10 of the shops of the city were concentrated in the market and around it. For all that, at that time the market was not yet covered. So the fact that it's covered in the game is not even accurate. Like, it wasn't covered until much later. That's interesting. Recurrent calamities, fires, and earthquakes hit the Grand Bazaar. The first fire occurred in 1515, another in 1548. Other fires ravaged the complex in 1588, 1618, 1645, 1652, 1658, and 1660. 1687, 1688, 1695, 1701. There's a lot of fires. Basically, there's a lot of people, and therefore a lot of fires. The fire of 1701 was particularly fierce, forcing in 1730 to 31 Grand Vizier Nevshehiri Damad Ibrahim Pasha to rebuild several parts of the complex. In 1738, the Kizla Agazi Bazir Aga endowed the fountain, near Merkankapi. A lot of fires. In this period, because of the new law against fires issued in 1696, several parts of the market which lied between the two bedsteads were covered with vaults. Despite that, other fires ravaged the complex in 1750 and 1791. The quake of 1766 caused more damages, which were repaired by the court chief architect, Ahmed, a year later. The 19th century growth of the textile industry in Western Europe, introduction of mass production methods, the capitulations signed between the Empire and many European countries, and the forestalling, always by European merchants, of raw materials needed to produce goods in the Empire's closed economy, were factors which caused the market's decline. But there was also the shift in trade routes. Like, when the Europeans started sailing around Africa to get to Asia, like the trade routes across the Ottoman Empire were less important. So there was that too. By 1850, rents in Benistan were 10 times lower than 2 to 3 decades before. So the economy just collapsed because, like, the trading was no longer important. The trading through the Ottoman Empire was no longer as important. Moreover, the birth of a West-oriented bourgeoisie and the commercial success of Western products pushed the merchants belonging to the minorities into moving out of the bazaar perceived as antiquated and into opening new shops in quarters frequented by Europeans such as Para and Galata. Man, that sucks. According to an 1890s survey, in the bazaar there were 4,399 active shops, 2 bedsteads, 2,195 rooms, 1 hammam, 1 mosque, 10 madrasah, 19 fountains, 1 mausoleum, and 24 khan. In the 30.7 hectares of the complex protected by 18 gates, there were 3,000 shops along 61 streets, 2 bedsteads, 13 khan, plus several more outside. The last major catastrophe happened in 1894, a strong earthquake that rocked Istanbul. The Minister of Public Works, Mahmud Celaleddin Pasha, supervised the repair of the damaged bazaar until 1898. And on this occasion the complex was reduced in area. To the west, the Pit Bazari, was left outside the new perimeter and became an open sky road. While the old gate and the Kachekla Kapi were demolished. Among all the khans which belonged to the market, many were left outside and only 9 remained enclosed in the structure. In 1914, the Sandal Bedestan, whose handlers of textile goods had been ruined by the European competition, was acquired by the city of Istanbul and starting 1 year later was used in an auction house, mainly for carpets. In 1927, the individual parts of the bazaar and the streets got official names. The last fires of bazaar happened in 1943 and 1954, and the related restorations were finished on 28 July 1959. The last restoration of the complex took place in 1980. On that occasion, advertising posters around the market were also removed. Okay, so it's still a market, right? Yeah, it's still a market, it's just not as amazing as earlier. Wow. The Grand Bazaar today. Do you want to read all this? I guess we'll go through the architecture. I don't know if we want to go through the social history. Maybe we do. Rectangular plan. 2 rows of stone piers, 4 in each row. I don't know if that's all that useful. The sunlight in Bedestan comes from rectangular windows placed right under the roof. They can be accessed through a wooden ambulatory. Due to the scarce illumination, the edifice was kept open only some hours each day, and was devoted to the trade of luxury goods, above all textiles. The center of Bedestan also has a rectangular plan. Yeah, I don't know if all this is all that useful. 12 stone piers bearing 20 bays surmounted by brick domes with blind drum, closed with iron gates. It's not that useful. Probably more useful to just look at the pictures, because it's better than a word description of what it is. Yeah, basically it looks like that. Which is kind of accurate, isn't it? Yeah, it's pretty accurate. It's fairly accurate. Compared to the thing again, look at that. Yeah, okay, so it pretty much looks like what it is in game. That's good. Social history. Until the restoration following the quake of 1894, the Grand Bazaar had no shops as found in the Western world. Along both sides of the roads, merchants sat on wooden divans in front of their shelves. Each of them occupied a space 6 to 8 feet in width and 3 to 4 feet in depth. This was named a Turkish dolap, meaning stall. So they weren't actual shops, they were just kind of stores, and you just sat there with a shelf of goods and you sold them. The most precious merchandise was not on display but kept in cabinets. Only clothes were hung in long rows with a picturesque effect. A prospective client would sit in front of the dealer, talk with him, and drink a tea or Turkish coffee in a relaxed way. At the end of the day, each store was clothed with drapes. Another peculiarity was the complete lack of advertising. Okay. Moreover, as everywhere in the East, traders of the same type of goods were forcibly concentrated along one road, which got its name from their profession. The inner Bedestan hosted the most precious wares. Jewelries, armorers, and crystal dealers had their shops there. The Sandal Bedestan was mainly the center of the silk trade, but also other goods were on sale there. The most picturesque parts of the markets were, apart from the 2 Bedestans, the shoe market, where thousands of shoes of different colors. Ottoman sumptuary laws prescribed yellow shoes for Muslims, blue for Greek Orthodox, black for Jews, and red for Armenians. That's weird. Were on display on high shelves. The spice and herbs market, which stood near the jewelers, the armor and weapons market, the old books market, and the flea market. So they weren't shops in the Western sense. The most precious stuff you can't even see, and you just basically walk up to a merchant and talk to them while you have tea and coffee, and then I guess you bargain with them. You ask them what they have, and then you bargain with them. So you just kind of walk up and chat to people, and then you buy things, which is interesting, but not sure how it's not that efficient, is it? Although maybe if you were doing a big deal of some sort, like if you had like a caravan full of stuff to sell, then it makes sense. I'm not sure. This kind of organization disappeared gradually, although nowadays a concentration of the same businesses along certain roads can be observed again. So people are going back to the old traditions, some of them. So jewelry gold bracelets, furniture, carpets, leather goods. See, like all this stuff is high value. These are low volume, high value goods. And I guess even in Western shops, the jewelers are similar. Like if you buy jewelry, you would have to walk up to the counter and talk to the person and kind of negotiate, and they would sell and you would bargain, kind of a little bit like that. But that's because it's high value and low volume. Whereas if you go to a supermarket or you go to like a department store, it's a different thing. It's low value, high volume goods that you don't really want to spend a lot of time talking to people. You just want to buy stuff and leave, right? Actually, the main reason of concentrating the trade in one place was to provide the highest security against theft, fire, and uprising. The goods in the Bedestan were guaranteed against everything except turmoil. Gates were always closed at night, and the bazaar was patrolled by guards paid by the merchants' guilds. In order to access the complex during night hours, an imperial edict was required. The only official night opening in the history of the bazaar occurred during the feast organized for the return of Sultan Abdulaziz from Egypt, when the sovereign crossed the illuminated market riding an horse. How is that? Among the rejoicing populace. So the guilds, the merchants' guilds, guaranteed the goods, and so they provided security as well. All right. Despite the immense wealth present in the bazaar over the centuries, as an English traveller recorded as late as circa 1870, a tour of the inner Bedestan could easily ruin a few of Rothschild's families. Thievery occurred extremely seldom. The most important such incident happened in 1591, when 30,000 gold coins were stolen in the old Bedestan. Amazing! How do you even carry 30,000 gold coins? These are gold coins. They would weigh... I don't know how much would that weigh? 30,000 gold coins? How do you even lift? You can't even hold all these gold coins. Now, the theft shocked the whole of Istanbul. The bazaar remained closed for 2 weeks and people were tortured until the money was found hidden under a floor matting. So they didn't even carry it out. They kind of took it and buried it under the ground. And then the whole place was closed for weeks and people were tortured. The culprit was a young Persian seller of musk. Good job, bro. Man, that was 30,000 gold coins. Thanks to the intercession of the Sultan Murad III, he was executed by hanging and not by torture. That's mercy. He was executed by hanging, not by torture. Man, serious business. The ethics of trade in the market until the Tanzimat age were quite different from the modern ones. Indifference to profit, absence of envy in the successes of other traders, and a single and correct price were peculiar traits of the Ottoman bazaar during its golden age. Wait a minute, what's that about? Indifference to profit. Okay, that can't... I mean, you gotta make some sort of money out of it. Indifference to profit, absence of envy in the successes of other traders, and a single and correct price were peculiar traits of the Ottoman bazaar during its golden age. I guess people would pretend to be indifferent to profit. I can't believe they would actually not care about profit. Because you have to make money. How do you eat? How do you survive? The reason for such behavior lies partly in the ethics of Islam, and particularly in the guild system, which provided a strong social security net to the merchants. Okay, well, I see. Guilds. So the guilds set the price. It's like a union, right? So there's collective bargaining going on. So there's the guild set the price, you sell at that price, and the guild guaranteed your income. It's like a union. Afterwards, the westernization of the Ottoman society and the influence of the national minorities caused the introduction of mercantile ethics in Ottoman society. Well, it wasn't very efficient then if the guilds controlled the prices. During the westernization of Ottoman society, the Grand Bazaar became an obligatory topos of the Romantic literature. We owe descriptions of the bazaar in the middle of the 19th century to writers such as Armando de Amicis and Théophile Gautier. Another peculiarity of the market during the Ottoman age was the total lack of restaurants. Well, that sucks. The absence of women in the social life and the nomadic conventions in the Turkish society made the concept of restaurant alien. Okay. Merchants brought their lunch in a food box called sifirtas, and the only food on sale was simple dishes such as doner kebab, tavuk gogsu, a dessert prepared with chicken breast, milk sugar, and rose water sprinkled on it. Wait a minute. It's dessert, but it's chicken. Chicken dessert. Chicken dessert. Okay. Chicken dessert and Turkish coffee. These simple dishes were prepared and served in small two-story kiosks placed in the middle of the road. We don't see that in the game. The most famous among these kiosks is the one still extant but not functioning anymore, placed at the crossing of Halijika Jadesi and Haji Jesme Jadasi. It is alleged that Sultan Mahmud II came there often in disguise to eat his pudding. I don't know if that's real or not. I mean, it could just be a story told to convince people to eat there. Chicken dessert. Chicken dessert. Amazing. The bazaar was in the Ottoman age the place where the Istanbulu could see each other. Not only was the market the only place in town where the ladies could go relatively easily, and this circumstance made the place especially interesting for the Europeans who visited the city, but especially from the Tanzimat age onwards, it was also the only place where the average citizen had a chance to meet casually the members of the imperial harem and of the court. So everybody was allowed to go there. Interesting. But just a bit earlier it says, absence of women in social life. Huh. Bazaar's merchants were organized in guilds. In order to establish a new one, it was only necessary to have enough traders of the same good. Afterwards, a monopoly was formed and the number of traders and shops was frozen. One could only be accepted in the guild through cooptation, either as son of a deceased member or after paying a suitable sum to a member who wanted to retire. Holy cow, monopolies! Yeah, the fuck right, monopolistic guilds. That's crazy, man. No wonder they didn't care about profit. They had well, look, if you have a monopoly, your profit is guaranteed. So it's not that they didn't care about profit. It's that they were a monopoly, so they didn't care. The guild's chef was a public officer called Kethuda. He was paid by the guild but appointed by the Qadi of Istanbul. Fixation of prices and taxes were a matter of the Kethuda. He was joined by a representative of the guild member called Yagidbasi, chief of brave young fellows. Chief of the brave young fellows? Now these two officers were flanked by the assembly of the elders, not necessarily old in age, but comprising the most experienced traders. Parallel to the guilds, there were purely religious organizations. Their members met in dervish shrines and performed religious functions. These organizations became less and less important with time due to the increased weight of the Greek, Armenian, and Jewish merchants in bazaar trade. Each guild had a financial department which collected a moderate monthly fee from the members and administered it, taking care of the needs of each associated person. The guilds lost increasingly their importance during the Tanzimat period and were abolished in 1913, being replaced by an association of bazaar merchants. Nowadays there are several merchant associations in the bazaar, but none is representative of the wholesaler community. Alright, well, no longer guilds. That's an interesting read. Alright, well there's the Grand Bazaar and commentary on Ottoman trading in general. So that ends our architecture tour of Assassin's Creed Revelations, I think. I don't think there's anything else for us to look at, not really. We're not completely done with the game yet. So we're done with the main game, but if I just exit out of the game, there's still the DLC, which is something completely different. The Lost Archive. Apparently, it's some sort of platforming puzzling, and it tells a story about Desmond and Lucy. So I think I'll do that too, since I have it. We're gonna do the Lost Archive DLC from the next video onwards. But for now, I'm gonna end the video. I'll see you guys later.